Hello and welcome back to Brony Adventures 4. Let's get started. The Brony Adventures 4, Chapter 15, Daddy. In Thunderstorm's castle at Scootaloo's and Blaze's room, Thunderstorm says, "Scootaloo, got a surprise for you. Open the door." The door opens. Scootaloo says, "What is it?" Brony says, "Hi, Mom." Scooter says, "Hey." Scootaloo says, "My sons!" She has Firewing. Blaze says, "Really?" Scooter says, "Hey, Dad." Blaze says, "Scooter." He yells Scooter. Thunderstorm watches them smiling. Meanwhile, in Ponyville, Rain walks towards Jocon's castle with groceries. Two armed silhouettes appear in front of her. Skull says, "Hold it, little missy." Grinder says, "Yeah, we want all your bits. Now." Rain says, "Do you know who I am?" Skull says, Does it look like we care?" "Bits." Rain says, "Do you know who my daddy is?" Grinder says, "No. Who is Daddy?" He starts laughing. Thunderstorm says, "Me." Grinder says, "Huh?" Thunderstorm says, "I'm her father." He walks up beside Rain and says, "And unless you want to die, leave now. I don't give second warnings." Skull says, "A tough guy, huh?" He walks up to Thunderstorm and says, "Well, bring it." Shh. Grinder says, "Whoa!" Skull says, Rain's eyes go wide, and she says, "Daddy." Thunderstorm says, "I told you. No second warnings." Shh. Skull screams, "Ah!" He falls down, limp, and blood pouring from his wound. Thunderstorm says, "Do you want to be next?" Grinder says, "Great Celestia, you're mad. I'm out of here." Ah! Thunderstorm says, "Bye-bye." Rain says, "You killed him. Stabbed right through him with his own weapon. You killed him." Thunderstorm says, "When it comes to my little angel, I don't play around." Rain says, "Thank you, but did you really have to kill him?" Thunderstorm says, "He threatened you and me." "Yes, I did. Come on, let's get you home, where it's safe." Rain says, "Okay." In Jacon's castle, Rain says, I'm gonna go find Jaconix. See you later, Daddy." She runs off. Thunderstorm says, "See ya, Angel." Red Hoof says, "Thunderstorm." Thunderstorm says, "Red Hoofs?" Red Hoof says, "I've been watching you to see how you take blows. Your speed, strength, power, etc. I would like to scan you. See what gives you all your abilities. You're not like a normal pony." Thunderstorm says, "Scan me?" "Okay, cool. Let's go." Red Hoof says, "Amazing. Let's." In Red Hoof's secret lab, Red Hoof says, "Just step in there." Thunderstorm says, "Okay." Red Hoof says, "Now let's see what gives you so many abilities." "Oh my. Extraordinary. Absolutely amazing." "You can come out now." Thunderstorm says, "What's amazing?" Red Hoof says, "There's many things that separate you from a normal pony. I'll tell you the most important ones." Thunderstorm says, "Okay." Red Hoof says, You have a higher resolve of magic, strength, power, rage, and speed. As we know, you're not invincible, but you are dangerous." Thunderstorm says, "What about Draconix?" Red Hoof says, "I haven't scanned him yet." Thunderstorm says, "Let me know his results, please." Red Hoof says, I will." Thunderstorm says, "Thank you." Red Hoof says, "No problem." Thunderstorm says, "A higher resolve of rage. What exactly does that mean?" Red Hoof says, "You can fight before you get enraged. But when you get enraged, you get better, times 10 better, but you lose things too. Your mercifulness and kindness go away almost completely, You also can't focus on anything else but your enemy, which can be a problem. You become what we call a rager. You use your rage to fuel and enhance your senses, but not all senses. Thunderstorm says, a rager. It says, as you've learned facing Darkstorm and not Ursa Major, ragers are not unbeatable. Thunderstorm says, am I the only rager in Equestria right now? Berto says, no. There's 3 others. Thunderstorm says, who are they? Berto says, your sister, father, and Thunderstorm says, who? Tell me, please. Berto says, Scootaloo. Thunderstorm says, you're kidding me, right? My little girl is a rager? Berto says, she has her pony DNA in her, and I've scanned her. I know, she is a rager. Thunderstorm says, how? Berto says, you and her are a lot alike, and very close. You adopted her, right? Thunderstorm says, yeah, why? Berto says, you didn't have any daughters before Scootaloo, did you? Thunderstorm says, not that I know of. Berto says, exactly. Thunderstorm says, what? Berto says, nothing. Never mind. Is there any specific way to identify that a pony is part of your family? Thunderstorm says, they'll be fast. I mean fast. Berto says, like Scootaloo. Thunderstorm says, yep. Berto says, could you be Scootaloo's biological father? Thunderstorm says, no. Dashi was the first pony that I ever had sex with. Berto says, ever been drunk? Thunderstorm says, yes, why? Berto says, then how do you know? Thunderstorm says, oh, Celestia. Berto says, we'll search your memories later. I need to scan Draconics. Thunderstorm says, oh, okay. See ya, Doc. Berto says, see ya, Lost Father. Thunderstorm looks at him, then slowly walks out. Thunderstorm says, Lost Father. I hope not, because me and her... Oh, Celestia, please no. I need to lay down. End of Chapter 15. The Brony Adventures 4, Chapter 16, Family. A few hours later, Thunderstorm is at Scootaloo's door. Thunderstorm says, her real father. We have a lot in common and share a lot of traits like the love of speed or love for extreme things, but ponies can have things in common. The door opens. Scootaloo says, Dad? Thunderstorm says, hey, Scoot, can I come in? Scootaloo says, sure. Thunderstorm says, is Blaze here? Scootaloo says, not right now. He went to hang out with Lunar and Blizzard. Why? Thunderstorm says, I got something to tell you. Scootaloo says, Dad, you're pale as a ghost and sweating like crazy. Thunderstorm says, me and some serious mayor may be your parents. Scootaloo says, what? What? Thunderstorm says, you had their pony DNA in you and we're a lot alike, so the host thinks I could be your actual dad. He's testing our DNA now. Scootaloo says, my actual dad, but we... Thunderstorm says, we had sex. I know. That's why I'm sweating and am as pale as a ghost. I might have had sex with my own... I got to lay down. Scootaloo says, but I don't have a black coat or red eyes. Thunderstorm says, he thinks you took after your mother, that the only thing I gave you was my stubbornness, speed, love for doing stupid things like stunts, etc., and the ability to turn into your anti-self since you don't look like a dark pony at all. Scootaloo says, you like stunts? Thunderstorm says, I know something Starbin. Do you really think I'll go that fast and not do stunts? Scootaloo says, good point. Oh, Celestia, Thunderstorm says, DNA results haven't come back yet. Maybe you're getting words up over nothing. Berto says, I have the results. Schooler says, well, Donaldson says, are we? Dodo says, you are father and daughter. Your mother is? Donaldson says, Zapapple. She's one of Applejack's cousins. She was in Equestria one day when I was still a young colt, maybe 15. I had a pretty bad day, so went to a bar and we met and talked. I got drunk, she got drunk, and then you were made. She has her coat, mane, and eyes, but your wings came from me. She was an earth pony, and since you mainly took after her, School says, I'm not an alcorn like you. Donaldson says, right. Dodo says, from wings to personality. That's what your father gave you. Your mother? Donaldson says, beauty. She gave you beauty, my little girl. If I had remembered sooner, we never would have. Dodo says, I think it's time for me to leave. Goodbye. He walks out and shuts the door. Scooter says, you still took me in. You had no idea that I was your actual daughter when you did that, and I seduced you. So yeah, we probably still would have. Donaldson says, no comment. Scooter says, so I've had my actual dad all along. Donaldson says, apparently. Schooler smiles. She nuzzles Thunderstorm and says, Daddy, I found you. Thunderstorm says, my little girl, you never lost me. I lost you. Schooler says, she didn't tell you. How could you have known? She just left me in Equestria, alone. Thunderstorm says, you're never alone. You're my little girl. Were you ever hurt? Schooler says, no. Thunderstorm smiles and says, that's because even though we didn't know it, I watched over you. I still do. Schooler hugs Thunderstorm, tears falling from her eyes, and she says, Daddy. Thunderstorm says, Daddy, you sound like your sister. Schooler says, I can see why she calls you that now. Daddy, I love you. Thunderstorm says, I love you too, my little girl. There's something else I need to tell you. Schooler says, what? Thunderstorm says, me, you, Skullcra, and your Grandpa Darkstar have a special power. It's called, Blaze says, King Thunderstorm. Thunderstorm says, Blaze, hi. Schooler says, Blaze. Blaze says, Skulu. They kiss. Thunderstorm says, that bugged me when she was my adopted daughter. Now? Thunderstorm's eyes glow red, and he says, it really bugs me. Skulu says, Dad, relax. I'm all grown up, and we've had 2 kids, twins. You're a little late to be overprotective. Blaze says, are you trying to get me killed? Thunderstorm says, just remember what I told you, Blaze. Blaze says, I do, sir. Thunderstorm's eyes go back to normal, and he says, good. Skulu says, what were you going to tell me, Dad? Thunderstorm's eyes glow red as he says it. Thunderstorm says, Rager. His eyes go back to normal. Skulu says, huh? Thunderstorm says, I'll show you what it means tomorrow. Bring my son-in-law. He can help. Since I don't need you angry to show you. He walks out of the room. Skulu says, okay, bye, Daddy. Blaze says, Rager? Oh, Celestia. Now I'm more scared of your dad than ever. Skulu says, you know what a Rager is? Blaze says, all dog ponies do. We're taught about them in school. Except for the royal family. For some unknown reason. But I'll leave King Thunderstorm to tell you. If he's a Rager, I definitely don't want to be on his bad side. Bye, honey. Blaze walks into their room. Skulu says, Rager, whatever it is, the opponents are taught to fear it, which means they're taught to fear Dad. If he is one. He mentioned Grandpa Darkstar. What if he's one too? Blaze! What is a Rager? I know you're not asleep. End of chapter 16. The Brony Adventures 4, chapter 17. Timberwolves. The next day, at Scooly's and Blaze's room, Scooly says, I'm coming. Dad? Thunderstorm says, it's time to show you what I was going to tell you. Scooly says, oh. Blaze says, thanks, Celestia. She loved me all day until midnight, trying to get me to tell her. I didn't. Thunderstorm says, good. Now come on. I need your help, Blaze. Blaze says, yes, my king. Thunderstorm says, he just won't stop that. Scooly says, you're his king. He just wants to show you respect. Thunderstorm says, I know, it's just, I may be in charge, king, but I'm still just a pony, like him. We're equal, the same. Scooly says, I know, and so does he, but calling you king gives you the proper respect. Blaze says, I can hear you two. Thunderstorm says, let's go. Scooly says, to where? Thunderstorm says, a flat, grassy field. Come on. Scooly says, okay. Blaze says, yes, sir. At a clear, grassy field, way outside of Ponyville. Scooly says, Twilight? You're here? Twilight says, hey, Scooly, Blaze. Yep. But I'm not exactly sure why. He didn't tell me much. Scooly says, me neither. Thunderstorm says, Scooly, we are Ragers. A Rager can use his anger to his or hers advantage, to enhance their senses and lock onto a target, but doing that also is vulnerable for something to sneak up on us. We can handle any situation. Timberwolves surround the area, growling. One jumps on Twilight. Twilight screams, ah! Help! Thunderstorm's eyes glow red and his armor appears, and he says, and this is what we can do. The Timberwolves pieces fall on the ground. Twilight gets up fast and says, we gotta get out of here. Two tackle Blaze. Scootaloo screams, Blaze! Two more tackle Scootaloo. Blaze says, get off of me! Scootaloo screams, Dad, help! Thunderstorm says, I'm coming. 6 Timberwolves surround him. Thunderstorm says, no, go away! Scootaloo screams, Dad! Blaze screams, my king! Thunderstorm screams, I'm coming! Twilight screams, ah! Help! Thunderstorm says, Twilight! The 6 jump on Thunderstorm, digging their claws into his skin and biting his neck. Thunderstorm screams, ah! He's soon buried underneath them. Scootaloo screams, Daddy! Blaze says, no. Twilight screams, Thunderstorm! The storm roars louder than it ever has before. Thunderstorm screams, ah! Static appears around the 6 Timberwolves. Thunderstorm screams, ah! The Timberwolves are blown away by a electrical field of lightning and magic. The other Timberwolves retreat, whimpering out of fear. Scootaloo, Blaze, and Twilight stand up, staring at Thunderstorm. 6 lightning bolts circle around him. Scootaloo says, Dad? Blaze says, whoa. Twilight says, he's changed. There's lightning bolts on his sides and going down his mane and tail. His eyes are dark yellow. What's happened? Dracona stands in front of the 6 lightning bolts and says, Thunderstorm? Is that you? Thunderstorm smiles and says, I'm Lightstorm. I tap completely into the power over thunderstorms and make it stronger. I let it run through me. That's why I have yellow eyes and lightning bolts on me, because lightning is running through me, along with everything else that makes a thunderstorm and its power. I might start us as I have feeling, but only for the ones Thunderstorm cares about. All others I kill easily and more horrible than you can imagine. Ever been inside a thunderstorm? It's like hell. And that's only the beginning. Draconic says, you might be worse than Stardust. Could you bring back Thunderstorm? Lightstorm says, sure. I'm no longer needed. The lightning bolts disappear and the eyes turn red again. Jaquan says, "You okay?" Donald Trump says, "Yeah, just cut up and bitten." Ah. Jaquan says, how many transformations do you have?" Donald Trump says, "3. Stardust, Black Storm, and my Ranger self. That's it." Jaquan says, "Dang." Thunderstorm falls to his knees, then on his side, unconscious. Schoolie screams, "Daddy!" Blaze screams, "King Thunderstorm!" Jaquan kneels down. Spike says, "What's wrong?" Jaquan says, "A bad deep cut into his chest. He's bleeding fast." Dwight says, I'll get Rainbow Dash." Jaquan says, "He's bleeding too quickly. You won't make it back in time." Dwight says, "So what do we do?" Jaquan says, "I don't know. I don't know how to heal Timberwolf cuts. They have strange magic on them." Zakor says, "I know how. Bring him now. Hurry, or his life will scurry." Jaquan says, "I got him." Let's go. In Zakor's house, Zakor says, "This will get the bleeding to slow down, and allow me to get around to the cure, for sure." She gives Thunderstorm the potion. Scooby-Doo says, "How long does the cure take?" Zakor says, "An hour to make, a second to take." Blaze says, "That's pretty quick. Don't worry, he'll be fine." 1 hour later, Zakor says, "It's finished. Time to replenish." She gives Thunderstorm the potion. His cut starts to heal rapidly. School says, "Thank you, Zakora." Zakor says, "Happy too, Scootaloo." Thunderstorm says, "Damn Timberwolves." Scootaloo hugs Thunderstorm and says, "Daddy, you're alright." Thunderstorm says, "Thanks to Zakora, clearly." "Thank you, Zakora." Zakora nods and smiles. Thunderstorm smiles and kisses Scootaloo on the forehead and says, "My little girl. Thanks, Celestia, you're alright. I love you, Scootaloo." Scootaloo says, "I love you too, Daddy. So much." Thunderstorm smiles wider. Jaquan says, "Thunderstorm, can we talk outside?" Thunderstorm says, "Sure." They walk outside and close the door. Jaquan says, "Before we came here, to this world, we had no idea that you and me, especially you, would turn into such a tough guy and get hurt, also die so much. You didn't know them when you came here, yet you risked your life to protect them. Why?" Thunderstorm says, "They are my family, including you. I knew them from the show. They just didn't know me. I wasn't going to let them suffer or die. This is my world. My home." Jaquan says, "Mine too." Thunderstorm says, "That transformation you saw me as. Lightstorm. Since me and Dashi are now one, she can tap into my power and use it. I don't want her to ever become like Dash. That transformation is dangerous. I had that deep cut in my chest, and I was sitting there like it wasn't even there. It forces the body to give everything it has till it can't anymore, till you either gonna die or be broken beyond belief. Help me keep her away from Light Dash. If that kills her, even Rebirth of Death won't be able to bring her back." Tears fall fast from Thunderstorm's eyes, and he says, "And I've lost her forever." He falls to his knees and says, "Don't let her near it. Please. Please." Judge Cornix kneels beside him and says, "I will, but you had to help me." Thunderstorm nods. Judge Cornix says, "Don't worry. You won't lose her. I promise you. I'll help you keep her away from it." Thunderstorm looks Judge Cornix dead in both eyes and says, "No matter what happens, no matter what you think you have to do, even if we all know I couldn't come back, don't let her near it. Okay?" Jaquan says, "Okay." Thunderstorm says, "Promise me. Pinky promise." Draconic says, I promise. Cross my heart and hope to fly. Stick a cupcake in my eye. Jonathan says, thank you. Draconic says, yeah. What happened to you? You've changed so much. You were a human that couldn't hurt a fly. Then you became a pony that could throw a punch, and now you're this guy who happily gives up his life like it's nothing to him. What happened to you? Jonathan stands up and says, I woke up. I realized that I had a lot of ponies that I cared about and wanted to protect, especially my family. When you live 15 years as a non-violent cowardly human and you get the chance to become something better, a hero, you take it. When you meet that special sun pony and have a family, you're ready to truly become a hero. Their lives matter more, and I'll happily give mine up to protect them, including yours. You're my brother. Now come on, let's get them home. Draconic nods and follows in silence. End of chapter 17. Brony Adventures 4, chapter 18. Shocking news. In Thunderstorm's castle at Twilight's room. Twilight says, coming. Thunder? What's wrong? Thunderstorm walks in and closes the door. He looks at Twilight with nervous eyes. Twilight says, what's wrong, Thunder? Please tell me. Thunderstorm says, me and Skulu I'm hurt. I can't tell you. I'm sorry to bug you, Twilight. Bye. Twilight says, wait. I'm one of the ponies that know you better than any other pony. I'm one of your closest friends. You said I'm like a sister, and you're like a brother to me. Whatever it is, you can tell me. How bad can it be? Thunderstorm looks at Twilight and says, You are like a sister, and you have no idea. Twilight says, you'll still be my brother, no matter what you tell me or do. She nuzzles him and says, I will never leave you. She smiles and says, you never left me. Thunderstorm says, okay, I'll tell you. He looks Twilight in both eyes and says, I'm Skulu's biological father. Twilight? Twilight says, you're hurt, and she's your... But you two had... She faints. Thunderstorm says, Twilight! Meanwhile, in Skulu's and Blaze's room, Skulu says, Blaze? Blaze says, yeah, Scoot? You okay? You seem nervous, and you're pale. Skulu says, I got to tell you something, but it's pretty shocking. Blaze smiles and, over to Skulu, says, I'm a dark pony. I live in dark pony territory. I can handle it. Skulu says, okay, if you say so. First, when I was still a young mare, like 16, me and Thunderstorm had sex. Blaze says, you are adopted, so... Skulu says, yeah. Here's the shocking part. Turns out, I'm his biological daughter. Blaze says, what? Skulu says, but who's tested our DNA? I'm his daughter. Blaze starts to stumble and says, oh, Celestia. He faints. Skulu says, yeah, you can handle it. Back to Twilight's room. Twilight rubs her head with her hoof and says, how? Thunderstorm says, when I was a young colt, 15, I had a bad day, so went to a bar and Zapapple, one of Abjack's cousins. Well, we talked, laughed, and got drunk, and then Skulu was made. I never saw her again. She never told me she was pregnant or that she left Skulu alone in Equestria. Why? Why didn't she tell me? Why? My little girl was alone. Why? I says, I don't know. Maybe she was scared or confused about what to do. Thunderstorm's eyes glow red and his armor appears and he says, she left a helpless baby alone. She had to raise herself for 7 years. 7 years without me, her daddy, to look out for her, to show her that she is loved by at least one parent. For 7 years I couldn't do that, and then for 11 years I raised her, but I didn't even know she was my own daughter. She just slid and never came back to her daughter. Who was the baby all alone? My little girl. The storm roars. Thunderstorm screams, Zap-Apple! Why? Zap-Apple says, I was selfish. Thunderstorm turns around and says, Zap-Apple, you're alive. Zap-Apple says, You did that just before we. Thunderstorm says, I made you immortal. Zap-Apple says, Yep. Thunderstorm says, I was more drunk than I thought. What do you mean, you were selfish? Zap-Apple says, I let her just go work on my farm and never had to deal with her. Plus, I didn't tell you about her father. I'm sorry. I truly am. The storm roars. The castle starts to shake. Thunderstorm says, You left her for a farm? Twilight says, Oh no. Zap-Apple says, Wow. Schooler says, Daddy! Blaze says, King Thunderstorm! Rain says, Daddy! Luna says, Dad! Murdash says, Thunderstorm! Lightning pals and crackles in front of them. Schooler, Blaze, Rain, Lunar, and Rainbow scream, Ah! Thunderstorm says, Stay back. This is between me and her. Twilight says, Thunderstorm, calm down, please. Thunderstorm says, Shut up, Twilight. Tell me, Zap-Apple, when you left her, was it at night? Zap-Apple says, Yes. Thunderstorm says, The weather? Zap-Apple says, Cold, kind of windy. Thunderstorm's wings swish to point horizontally, his armor pointing left and right. Thunderstorm says, Twilight says, Don't. Thunderstorm says, I've never hurt a normal mare before. The storm roars. Zap-Apple says, Huh. Hurt? Please. Don't. I came to apologize and meet my daughter. Make things right. Please. I'm sorry. Thunderstorm says, You're sorry? What's that going to do? It changes nothing! The storm roars, even louder. The host says, This is bad. He's getting close to losing it, going Rager. If he does, she's dead. Schooler says, He wouldn't. The host says, When you go Rager, you lose control till it's over. Schooler says, No. Zap-Apple screams, Stop yelling at me! Sorry, it's the best I can do, you colt of a mare! Thunderstorm's eyes go blank. He slowly walks towards Zap-Apple. The host says, Oh, Celestia, it's taken over. Zap-Apple says, Thunderstorm? Thunderstorm punches Zap-Apple into Twilight's dresser. He continues the merciless assault. Blood starts to stain the walls and run across the floor. Schooler screams, Daddy, stop! He continues the assault, saving his armor for the final blow. Zap-Apple screams, Ah! Tears fall from her eyes. Schooler finally gets through the other ponies to stop Thunderstorm. Zap-Apple slowly turns her eyes to watch Schooler race to rescue her. Zap-Apple thinks, She's beautiful. My daughter. I love you with all my heart. I'm so sorry. Shh! Thunderstorm's armor goes into her head. Schooler screams, No! Shh! Her head hits the floor, her blank, lifeless eyes looking at Scootaloo, as if she wanted to say something. Schooler falls to her knees by Zap-Apple crying. Schooler screams, No! Thunderstorm's eyes go back into focus. Thunderstorm says, What? What happened? Schooler screams, No! I never got to meet her or even hug her. Why? Thunderstorm looks at his handiwork in shock and surprise. Thunderstorm stumbles backwards and says, I did this? Oh, Celestia, I killed her. Blood covers Thunderstorm, making him look crimson. He drips blood from his tail, mane, and chin. Thunderstorm looks at what was Sap Apple. Blood still pours from her mangled body, covering the floor in a pool of blood, cuts all over, bone and throbbing blood. Red muscles show on her sides, front left leg, and back. Her blood red throbbing organs floating in the pool of what was the floor. Her torn red flesh that made her stomach swings left and right in the blood. Pieces of flesh and fur float around. Her lifeless, blank, purple eyes looking at Scootaloo. Twilight slowly walks over to Thunderstorm, making the pool of blood ripple. Thunderstorm falls to his knees, blood rippling, tears falling out of his eyes. Thunderstorm says, I did this. I killed her. I killed Scootaloo's mother. Zap Apple. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. By a hugs Thunderstorm, he continues to cry. Scootaloo says, Mother. Bernash walks over to Scootaloo, making huge ripples. She says, Please don't hate your father. He had no control. Scootaloo looks over at Thunderstorm crying, Twilight hugging him. Scootaloo stands up and says, I don't hate him. I just wish I had gotten to meet her. Bernash says, I'm sorry. Scootaloo nods and walks out of the room with Blaze, blood rippling from every step she takes. Every pony leaves, leaving Twilight and Thunderstorm alone. After hours, Thunderstorm finally stops crying. Thunderstorm stands up and says, Thank you, Twilight. Twilight says, You okay? Thunderstorm says, No. He slowly walks to Sap Apple's body, the blood barely rippling as his hooves enter it and then slowly leave, blood dripping from them, back into the pool of cold, dark, crimson blood. Thunderstorm kneels down and kisses her on the forehead and says, I'm so sorry, Sap Apple. I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. Thunderstorm slowly stands up and walks to the door, blood barely rippling. Twilight says, It wasn't your fault. It took over. Thunderstorm looks at her with sad, depressed eyes. He slowly walks down the hallway to his and Berdash's room. He washes off the dry blood and slowly climbs into bed and just lays there staring at the far wall. Berdash climbs in the bed and hugs him, wrapping both wings around him. They just stay like that for days. End of chapter 18. The Brony Avengers 4, chapter 19. When love ends, another descends. And in Draconis' castle at the days of Sap Apple's death. Thunderstorm walks down the hallway that leads to Ratchet's lab slowly, zoned out into his own thoughts. Zara's voice screams, You don't care about me? You're always in here with Tinker. Ratchet says, I can't spend time with my daughter? Zara screams, Of course you can. Ratchet says, No, I can't, because you're too jealous of your own daughter. Zara screams, How dare you? Ratchet screams, Get out now. Zara screams, Happy to. Thunderstorm says, What? They're fighting? It sounds serious. Zara runs up the stairs and stops when she sees Thunderstorm. Thunderstorm says, I think it'd be best if I sent you to Manhattan before something really bad happens. Zara says, Go ahead. It's over anyway. Thunderstorm says, I was going to go there to get a break from the memories that are in my castle, but here. Train leaves today at 6. You got 2 hours. Zara says, Thank you. Thunderstorm nods and says, Stay safe. Zara nods and walks away. Thunderstorm walks down into Ratchet's lab. Thunderstorm says, Ratchet? Ratchet says, Thunderstorm, did you hear? Thunderstorm says, Yes. I saw Zara in the hallway. I gave her a ticket to Manhattan. She's leaving. Ratchet says, Good. No more drama. She's the queen of it. I can't take it anymore. Thunderstorm says, where's Tinker? Ratchet says, I sent her out when Zara's drama started to start. Thunderstorm says, oh, good. An explosion. Well, not an explosion. Sorry. A wrench falls off a table. Clank says, sorry. Thunderstorm says, hey Clank. Ratchet says, you really are down. Thunderstorm says, yeah. See ya. Good luck with all of this. Ratchet says, same to you. Thunderstorm says, yeah. You slowly walk back up the stairs in the hallway. Rain says, Dad? Thunderstorm says, hey Rain. Rain wrestling around him and says, come on, let's talk. Thunderstorm says, Rain. Rain says, Mom and Twilight are waiting. So are Bomb Scratch and Firefly. Thunderstorm says, okay, fine. Back in Ratchet's lab, Nightlock comes down the stairs. Clank says, hello, Nightlock. Good to see you. Nightlock says, hey Clank. Ratchet says, Nightlock. Nightlock calls Ratchet and says, I heard what happened. I passed by Grandpa on the way here. I'm sorry. Ratchet says, I'm not. I'm glad she's gone. Made every day a drama. Nightlock says, you had 2 kids with her. Ratchet says, they're the best thing that's ever happened to me, but she's not. Nightlock kisses Ratchet and says, I could be. Tinker says, Nightlock! She hugs Nightlock. Nightlock says, hey Tink. Ratchet says, Tinker, could you go up to my room and get my 8 extra tools? Tinker says, sure Dad. She goes up the stairs. Ratchet says, I'm way older than you. Nightlock says, Grandma's 1,000 years older than Grandpa. Grandpa died, so he didn't age, and they're still together. Mom and Dad are together, and he's way older than Mom. I love Tinker. And Winter. Me and Tink hang out so much. She feels like my own daughter. Me and you have talked, laughed, and really gotten to know each other. You know me, and I know you. I love you. Ratchet kisses Nightlock and says, and I love you. Nightlock smiles and says, I know you had 2, but I want to have a baby. Ratchet says, I don't mind having another. I love kids. Nightlock says, let's get started then. Ratchet says, but Tinker will come back soon. Nightlock says, leave a note and let's go to my room. Ratchet says, alright. Nightlock says, hurry. She giggles. Ratchet says, I am. Clank says, what am I to do, sir, while you are gone? Ratchet says, look after the lab and don't let Tinker leave it while I'm gone. Okay? Clank says, yes, sir. The lab is in good hands. Don't worry. Ratchet says, I know, Clank. You're trustworthy. Clank says, thank you, sir. Ratchet says, where did I put the paper? Bingo. Nightlock says, Clank. Clank says, yes, madam. Nightlock says, tell Tinker me and Ratchet are starting a family, and that's why we left. She'll know what I mean. Clank says, yes, madam. Nightlock says, forget the note. Clank will do it for us. Let's go. Ratchet says, remember, keep Whitley in his glass case. Don't let him out for anything. Got it? Clank says, of course, sir. Ratchet says, okay, let's go. Nightlock says, yay. End of chapter 19. The Brony Adventures 4, chapter 20. Lost. In Thunderstorm's castle, after he had talked to Rain, Twilight, Bomb Scratch, Firewing, and Rammerdash in the secret passageway, Thunderstorm lifts up against the wall in the dark hallway. Thunderstorm's thoughts. I am a rager. Red Hooves says in his mind, you're what we call a rager. It's scary. 1 minute I'm there. The next, I'm not. And some pony is dead. I don't remember much of what I did or what happened. I remember screaming. Zababble screams in his mind. Ah! Scooter screams in his mind. Dad, stop! I couldn't. I wasn't there. It was like something stole my body, stole my life. I keep having nightmares. Waking Ashley up in the middle of the night. She wakes me up and then calms me down. But it's gotten worse. I know their memories, but they won't stop. They come every second. They won't leave. They won't stop. The blood. So much blood. The pain. Zababble screaming. Tears fall from Thunderstorm's cheeks. Back to reality. Thunderstorm says, I did it. I did it all. He starts crying. Draconic says, Thunderstorm? Thunderstorm says, I'm lost. I'm losing this battle. My sanity is leaving. Help. Some pony. Please. Draconic kneels down beside Thunderstorm and says, we can't help you unless you try to. Stop giving up and start fighting. Thunderstorm says, I killed a normal, helpless Earth pony, and it was Kulu's mom. Her mom. Sapapple. Draconic says, what would it take for you to believe that it wasn't your fault? Thunderstorm says, she died by my hooves, my armor, my murder. Draconic just says in silence, lost for words. Thunderstorm says, stand up, son. Thunderstorm says, Draconic says, how did you find the secret passageway? Thunderstorm says, Rain told me. Stand up. Draconic says, of course. Thunderstorm slowly stands up. Thunderstorm says, let's go for a walk. Thunderstorm follows in silence. In a distant forest, Thunderstorm says, Thunderstorm, I know how you feel. I'm a ranger too. I killed ponies I cared about. It's not your fault. The ranger side is like a amazing, powerful, but ruthless spirit that's in you. When it takes over, you have absolutely no control, but they stop walking. Thunderstorm faces Thunderstorm and says, I can teach you how to control it, how to use it. It's a gift, not a curse. Thunderstorm looks at Darkstar and says, how do you... Darkstar says, ancient Dark Pony texts. They explain to us how, and I learned. So can you. Thunderstorm backs away and says, no, I don't want it. Schooler screams in his head, Dad, stop! Shh! Schooler screams, no! Thunderstorm screams, ah! Leave my head! Leave! He falls to his knees, tears falling out of his eyes. Thunderstorm says, leave. Thunderstorm says, memories. They won't go away unless you make them go away. Thunderstorm says, I can't. Thunderstorm says, you can. If you stop blaming yourself, it will stop. You're torturing yourself, son. Stop. Let me teach you. He walks towards Thunderstorm. Thunderstorm stands up. His armor appears. He points it, but his wing is shaking. Thunderstorm says, stay back. Please. Just stay back. Thunderstorm says, don't be silly. Let me teach you. Let me. Thunderstorm swings his armor at Darkstar, but he catches it and flips him to the ground and holds him down. Thunderstorm starts crying and says, I almost did it again. Darkstar smacks him and says, stop it! If you won't accept it, then I'll take it. Darkstar pushes his horn against Thunderstorm's, and explosion goes off. Darkstar screams, ah! What just happened? He looks at Thunderstorm. He's standing up. His lightning bolts circle around him. He raises his wings and screams, I am a ranger! The storm roars. He looks at Darkstar, his eyes shining as they once did and are again. Darkstar stands up and smiles. He walks to Thunderstorm. They smile at each other. Darkstar says, let's do it. Thunderstorm nods. Thunderstorm and Darkstar scream. Ah! Lightning bolts circle up around them. The ground cracks. The storm roars. Dragonet says, "What is that?" Luna smiles and says, "A father and son celebrating." Dragonet says, "Celebrating what?" Luna says, "That he's found. That he's a rager. That he's a storm." The last part she says full of pride. Draconis looks out the window at the massive storm and says, "Welcome back, brother." End. Let's chapter 20. Well, that's it for now. Oh man. Anyway, thank you for coming back. Thank you for listening. Don't know why I got such a problem with saying that word. But anyway, and see you next time.